I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and I have, heard him say several times about how he is upset with this whole cancel culture, or this woke culture, as they call it, And it's funny that he says that because he was actually the first one to start this whole cancel culture thing when he called out Carlos Mencia, right? During his show, saying he was stealing jokes, and basically got Carlos Mencia, ruined his career after that. And he never recovered from that. So he basically canceled Carlos Mencia, yet he says he hates cancel culture and he hates people that go after people like that, But I'll tell you essentially what I believe. I believe that Joe Rogan is a bully. I've dealt with several bullies throughout life, and I'll tell you one thing about bullies is that they are unhappy and they're angry and they're often jealous. Why do bullies make fun of smart kids? Why do they make fun of the smart kids or smart people, right? Because they can't get it. They don't understand the things the way that intelligent people do, So they're upset, they're angry, and they're jealous. And so they want to make these people feel bad about themselves because they feel bad about themselves. And same thing with, the guy or the girl who gets the boy, or the, guy who gets the girl, right? Why do they want to bully him? Because, they didn't get the girl, and because they're jealous of that. So they want to make that person feel bad about themselves. And when you look at Joe Rogan, he has this history of making people feel bad about himself. And I'll give you one example of him bullying someone. But first, I'm going to continue the story with Carlos Mencia, okay? He clearly bullied Carlos Mencia and said that he stole someone's joke. And I feel like you look at Joe Rogan, he wasn't this great comedian. He's a good sportscaster. He's good a podcast host, right? But he's not a great comedian. And I feel like he sees Carlos Mencia, who's doing very well, and he starts to get jealous, and he starts to think, why can't I be that good? Why am I not that comedian up there? And I think that upset him. And so that night he bullied Carlos Mencia and accused him of stealing other people's jokes and basically ruined his career. And the crazy thing about it is that when you look at all comedians, they all borrow from other comedians. They all borrow from someone else, I can't tell you how many comedians I know tell a joke probably that their uncle or grandfather told them when they were a kid, right? They just elaborate on it more. They change it up, okay? Some comedians tell jokes better than other comedians, right? They know when to get the punchline. They know how to convey this joke, and they got the timing down, right? So some comedians, it's that they'll use someone else's joke, but they're much better at telling it. Some people play movie roles better than other actors, right? It's just, and that's not their character, and sometimes they go with another character and they cast someone else. It's just that character plays that role much better. And, so when you look at these comedians and say, well, they've been stealing from other comedians. Well, no, man, because all comedians are borrowing from other comedians. They're using material that was probably made by someone else, or they probably were inspired by another comedian, and they sort of elaborate on it, make it better, and they tell that joke with a perfect timing and get the punchline right. Or it's just their stage presence or their likability. And that's what brings people to that person, okay? But if you look at Joe Rogan and you see with that whole Carlos Mencia incident, there was a story Bobby Lee told where he sort of said that he didn't feel that Carlos Mencia was stealing jokes, and he felt like he kind of still was, he owed a lot to Carlos Mencia because he helped Bobby Lee's career. So he, still didn't want to kind of fully put him down and say he was stealing people's jokes, right? Well, I guess Joe Rogan and his group of bullies, they came to Bobby Lee and basically bullied him and said, well, whose side are you on? You know, you're supposed to be on our side. Why are you saying that I'm wrong and he's not telling, or he's not stealing other people's jokes, you know? And basically bullied Bobby Lee to come out and say, yes, Carlos Mencia is stealing other people's jokes. And if you look that up, you'll probably hear that interview with Bobby Lee. I think it's Tiger Lily, that show, that podcast that he does. And he talks about that. And that's a clear example of Joe Rogan being a bully and bullying Bobby Lee into being on his side. Okay? And the biggest example I could use as Joe Rogan being a bully is that when you look at Survivor Man, Les Stroud, right? He had Les Stroud on his show a very long time ago, before the famous interview with Les Stroud, where they kind of got into it, okay? And he tells Les Stroud, he says, yeah, man, I believe in Bigfoot. You should do a Bigfoot show. And Les Stroud ends up doing Survivor Man Bigfoot series, okay? After this, he has Les Stroud on the show to talk about it. And he basically starts bullying Les Stroud on the show, saying how he's crazy because he believes in Bigfoot, and all these people that believe in Bigfoot are crazy, and why'd you do the show, blah, 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 when he was the one who told him to do the show. And it's basically a whole episode of him bullying Les Stroud. And you can see the frustration with Les Stroud, who's a really nice, cool guy. And, you know, for him to go after him, I've seen that as bullying. And so I definitely do think Joe Rogan's a bully, and I think he does pick on people that he is jealous of or has contempt against. You know, Les Stroud's a very likable guy, and I think that's why he went after him, because a lot of people like Les Stroud because he's the real deal. You know, he's the real Survivor Man. He's not faking it. He really goes on these, you know, survival training exercises, or whatever you want to call them. But he is the real deal. So I think it's, you know, we have to start asking ourselves, you know, when are we going to stand up to these bullies and stop letting them bully people and go after people? You know, we need to end bullying. And I think that we have to show them that this isn't the kind of behavior you can have towards other people. You know, we need to frown upon that, and we need to hold these celebrities even to a higher standard and say, look, you can't bully other people, man. And I think at the end of the day, you know, he talks about cancel culture and woke culture, but really at the end, you know, he's the one canceling people. He's the one bullying people, you know. Just frustrating, because you hear about that and it's like, I feel like, you know, but he doesn't want to talk about that part of, you know, his career and bring that up. So, but yeah, you know, it's just something that I think is just bothersome, that, you know, he's allowed to bully people and get away with it because his podcast has become so big and he's basically like untouchable, you know. But anyways,